Welcome to Couch Quarterbacks. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Couch Quarterbacks podcast. I'm Andrew Roachford, and with me is Ben Steinberg. And Stein, we're through another week of football, another week of fantasy football. How'd your fantasy teams do this week?
It was a rough football weekend for me, Roach. I'm not going to lie. I came up short in a few, and a few of my teams came up short overall, college football included. This is one of those weekends we want to forget. But you know what they say, it's also a learning experience, okay? You know, I'm going to do a little Nick Saban here, okay? We're always learning, okay? We're always learning. We didn't play well in the fourth quarter,
Nick Saban and Ben Steinberg all often come up in the same sentence. So, in terms of my fantasy teams, I did decent this week. I think I'm going to go 4-2, hopefully, depending on how Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams do during this Monday Night Football game that we've got on in the background. So, if you see the flashing lights. And our friend
PFT commenter is actually commenting on a live. We are currently watching the Eli Manning, Peyton Manning feed. Y'all, this is really interesting because this is kind of the way football's going right now. We had the Nick game last year. Mm-hmm. We have this kind of deal. So we have new kind of, and I heard Amazon is going to be having some weird thing for their next year because they're going to have exclusive rights for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, for the Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, so just interesting movements all around with the media. But guys, when it's all said and done, it's all about the football. Let's get into week 2.
Yeah, so week 2, I had to kind of catch up on some of these 1 o'clock games. I was working, so I had to get the highlight videos on YouTube. Stein gracefully.
I was watching the Red Zone by myself.
You gracefully gave me your YouTube TV username login, so I could watch that while working. So thank you for that.
And I'll say my interest, for the games was started off here at the beginning of Red Zone, and once that food coma hit around the witching hour, I kind of just everything tapered off.
You were like an actual football player where you fatigued as the games went along.
Yeah, I needed the Gatorade rest. Did you hear that Red Zone did freeze up? We had a freeze up, and it was stuck on the Gatorade logo, which apparently was worth $4-something million for that.
Really?
Yeah,
how about that ad placement for Gatorade on that one?
Exactly.
What a coincidence!
I mean, it was out for about 10 minutes. I mean, it seemed like an eternity, though, and in Red Zone time.
Yeah, but anyways, let's hop into the game. Stein had a great week picking this week. We will say I already lost this week in terms of the picks. I went 9-6 going into this Monday Night Football game again, just like I did last week. Stein with an 11-4 after going 7-8 in week 1, really coming back with a vengeance.
That is a bounce back week.
We're both 18-12 going into this game. Both have the Packers, so we're gonna have the same record going into week 3.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe there was one game when we get to the recap, I'll point out to the game that I was like, why did I pick this team?
Oh, I've got a couple of them during our head-to-head. Yeah. I'm like, what the heck? Why would you do that?
But we'll do the punishment for our next episode. We'll spin and we'll figure out what be then.
Yeah, so we'll film that on Friday. It'll come out sometime on Saturday. So yeah, stay tuned in for that punishment. We'll have it posted on Instagram as well, so be sure to follow us on that so you can see that. But let's get into the first game of the 1 o'clock hours, and that is the Bengals and the Bears. And the Bears,
the bees and the orange, and the Bears come up victorious in a 2017 20-17
in a 2017 game
classic
of the year.
A 2017 classic. The Bears win it, and it's just a weird kind of game all around.
Stein, when I looked back, this is one of those games. We'll start off with the first one where we both picked the Bengals, and I was like, why do we both pick the Bengals in this one? Like, I know they had the great win first week in overtime against Minnesota. The Bears coming off the tough Sunday Night Football loss to the Rams, but I think we kind of forgot how good this Bears defense was. And, of course, they had literally 4 straight possessions with turnovers from the Cincinnati Bengals. You had the fumble from T. Higgins, and then you had 3 straight interceptions from Joe Burrow, a dude that doesn't turn over the football. He had like 199 straight passing attempts without throwing an interception. He had them on 3 straight throws.
Yeah, I like to say this is Burrow's first real struggle of 2021. In his sophomore season. Last year, we didn't really get to see a chance to see him have a struggle because these young guys are going to have their struggles, right? 19 of 30 passing, 207 yards, 2 TDs. Give him the 2 TDs.
They were both late in the ball game.
Yeah, but what sticks out is going to be those 3 picks. Also really interesting was Joe Mixon, all carries.
Yeah, with Giovanni Bernard gone, he's pretty much taken over as the bell cow back in that backfield. They have Samaje Perine as the backup, but it's really the Joe Mixon show. He's one of the few guys in the league now that is still a 3-down back. So he got the 20 carries, wasn't very effective with them, only the 69 yards rushing. I think he only had 1 reception as well.
Yeah,
so
really nothing.
After he was one of the leading rushers in week 1, kind of had a little bit of regression. But once again, this is a tougher Bears defense than I think we kind of put in going into this game.
And, the Bengals receiving core, is three-headed monster. Tyler Boyd had a great game.
He was the leading receiver this week.
And then you have the emergence of Jamar as well, combined with T. Higgins, who did have a fumble, but those guys are kind of just... Those are going to be the 3 main guys going forward.
Yeah, so you had T. Higgins was the leading, Tyler Boyd was the leading receiver, and then you had T. Higgins and Jamar Chase both getting touchdown catches. So all 3 pretty effective fantasy-wise. But
producing.
This is very similar to me, the Pittsburgh kind of 3-headed monster wide receiver when you talk about Juju, Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. Yeah. It's just so tough to predict which one of the 3 guys or which 2 of the 3 guys are going to be effective every single week. It's looking like right now Higgins is going to be the lead guy. He's the one getting the most targets, getting the most production. But it's really just going to be a week-to-week kind of thing and maybe a matchup-to-matchup type thing to see who will actually be effective.
Yeah. But it's nice that they have weapons in the offense, after having, just A.J. Green and that's it for so long. Bears-wise, let's talk about the Bears. Andy Dalton gets hurt. Comes back in, but gets hurt again. It was, interesting.
Yeah, it was a non-contact injury, too, for Dalton.
He runs out of the sideline. They were showing it live.
I was going to say, you never like to see those non-contact injuries, especially to the lower body. So they did the test results, MRI stuff. Today, they said it's not anything MCL or ACL related. They said it's more of a bone bruise on his knee. So that's got to be best case scenario. Well, I guess this best case scenario for Andy Dalton, maybe
Andy Dalton
a worst case,
and maybe Matt Nagy, so he keeps his promise.
I was gonna say, or maybe a worst case scenario for Bears fans.
Fields was not good in spot duty. 6 of 13 with a pick. I mean, that's rough, but he did lead the win. His rush game was a factor.
I was gonna say he had like a 9-yard rush on a 3rd and 8 very late in the game to kind of
close it up. Yeah.
So, but it's just kind of the growing pains that you're gonna see from Fields, especially with how sporadically Nagy is using him. So Nagy said today through a PR official that Dalton will be the starter when he's healthy. So
they need to stop playing, I don't even know, like pitter patter, like patty cake with quarterbacks, and just name freaking Justin Fields as the guy. I mean, seriously. Pretty much the name of the game, though, for this Bears in this game was their defense. You alluded to that earlier. 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 8 pass deflections, which is a very underrated stat. 3 picks, and including that pick 6 by Roquan Smith, the former Bulldog. So that's just, kind of that classic Bears defense.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, even though it was 20-17, it was really a 20-3 ball game, and then 2 touchdowns late for the Bengals made it a respectable ball game. But I think the biggest thing going into this upcoming week is just going to be, is Andy Dalton going to be healthy enough to start in this game, or are we going to see Justin Fields get his first start?
Yeah, I think Justin Fields in his first start is going to look a lot better than he's had in spot duty, because they'll be planning and practice around plays for him. But bottom line from this game, Bears defense won them this game. Bengals are improved. The Bears defense won this game. The Bengals didn't lose this game. And Joe just had a bad day.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be perfect every single week of the season. Joe ran into a tough defense in his second week, but expect him to rebound and still have a pretty good season.
Yeah. Moving on to the Texans taking on the Browns. The Browns are going to pull this one out 31-21.
The Texans, man. I mean,
keeping it close.
I was going to say, they were up 14-7 in this ball game, and just overall, really up until Tyrod Taylor got hurt in this ball game was when they really lost the lead, but still overall able to keep it close in this ball game. Yeah. They're able to cover the spread in this one.
Yeah, 2-0 and covering the spread, which is interesting for a team that we thought was going to be so bad.
Because the Browns were like a 12.5-point favorite, so only losing by 10 points.
Yeah. So pretty much the big story of this one for the Texans was Tyrod Taylor going down. Before he goes down, 10 for 11, 125 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah,
he was dealing.
Like I said, I mean, he was playing well in his revenge game against the Cleveland Browns.
Tyrod, a revenge game. He probably has a bunch of revenge games.
I think a lot of us just kind of underestimated how good. Well, I guess not how bad Tyrod was. I wouldn't say that he's a good quarterback, but he played a lot better than I think a lot of people expected him to, especially on this Texans team when there's not much around him.
Not very inspired team. Davis Mills comes in for mop-up duty. Not very effective. I didn't even write his stats because that's how average they were.
He was 8 of 18, didn't have a touchdown, threw a pick, but he's going to have a quick turnaround as he's going to be starting Thursday Night Football. They already ruled out Taylor for the Thursday Night Football game against the Panthers, said that he's probably going to miss 3 to 4 weeks of grade 2 hamstring strain. So, those muscle injuries are always kind of tough to deal with, and it's a tough recovery process.
Yeah. Last week we talked about the Texans' run game being a big weapon. This game, they were back to basics, though. Really, pretty much no rushing TDs between the three-headed monster and nobody averaged more than 4 yards. But Phillip Lindsay did get a touchdown reception, and then listen to this: Brandon Cooks 9 catches for 78 yards and a touchdown. Every other receiver. Listed receiver had 1 catch. I think Phillip Lindsay might add 2, but...
yeah. Brandon Cooks, 14 targets in the game. There was no one else that had more than 2 targets. So it just shows how Brandon Cooks is really the focal point of this passing attack. And the thing that's crazy to me is just with having nobody else around there, he's still able to be so effective because you see something like in the Chiefs game when we get to the Sunday Night Football game, how they really shut down the Ravens really shut down Tyreek Hill, double teaming him and stuff. But Brandon Cooks is still able to get open, still able to make plays. He had the over 100 yards receiving last week, over 100 yards this week, and a touchdown. So a great first 2 weeks for him.
Yeah. Let's kick it over to the Browns side of the ball. The name of the game was Chunt again. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb goes 11 for 95 and a touchdown. Kareem not as good, but 13 for 51 as a handcuff. Not bad. Baker goes down with an injury on his shoulder.
Yeah, he threw an interception and then making the tackle. It was his non-throwing shoulder that kind of got whiplashed backwards. So he was slow to get up on the play. I don't think he ever missed a series or anything like that. I think he came back in on their next possession.
Scary for Browns fans because, we've seen some injuries. And speaking of injuries, Jarvis Landry carted to the locker room. It's the receiving core right now is thin.
Yeah, so you have OBJ who's missed the first 2 weeks of the season. Who knows what his status is going to be for week 3. Jarvis Landry is now week to week an MCL injury, so probably going to miss some time and very unlikely to play in this week 3 matchup. And in terms of Baker, he really started passing more to the tight ends. You saw Austin Hooper have a pretty good receiving line. Harrison Bryant had a long catch downfield, but like you were saying, Stein, just the big part of their offense, I mean, even before these wide receiver injuries, is going to be the running game between Chubb and Hunt, and they're going to have to step up even more now.
Yeah, exactly. How thin they are at receiver. Bottom line for this game, Texans aren't as bad as you and I thought. I think that, now that Tyrod Taylor's gone, maybe we'll take a little bit away from them.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge regression not having him at quarterback and bringing in your third-round rookie to now start on a short week against a Panthers team that, when we get to them, is exceeding expectations.
Yeah. And then Browns had a get-right game, and they did what they needed to do, but not as convincing as we would have wished.
And one more thing, Stein, David Culley did come out and announce that Deshaun Watson will be inactive for the Thursday night game. They're going to call up Jeff Driscoll from the practice squad to be the backup quarterback. So all the questions that were coming in when Taylor got hurt, is this Deshaun finally going to be active? No. Looks like he is still going to be riding the pine.
It's going to be Trevor Bauer-esque there. All right, moving on. Rams versus Colts. Rams are going to move to 2-0, winning against the Colts 27-24.
Yeah, a great game, very closely contested all game long. The Rams able to edge out the Colts.
Colts down early, mount a comeback, but Rams are going to hold on. Stafford still kind of dealing for the Rams. He was 19 of 30, a hair under 300 yards, 2 TDs, did have a pick. Cooper Kupp was amazing.
Cooper Kupp it's probably between him and Tyler Lockett have been the 2 best wide receivers these first 2 weeks of the season. Just that connection between Stafford and Kupp early on in this season has been second to none. I mean, they've just looked great in both these games so far this season, and it's going to be really exciting to see if they can keep it up through the 17 games.
Robert Woods was efficient too. It's kind of, Woods and Kupp are legit 1 and 2 options, which is, nice because that Rams team from the Super Bowl really, these guys didn't come into their own, and now they've really come into their own with Stafford under center. Defense for the Rams does its job. Nothing super notable, but Daryl Henderson does leave the game in the fourth with a rib injury.
Yeah, the name of the game is going to be injury, specifically to quarterbacks, as you'll see for the most part. But yeah, Daryl Henderson, rib injury. That's been another injury that was popular this past week.
Yes.
Left in the fourth quarter, did not return. They're saying it was he has a problem with his rib cartilage. Yeah, Sean McVay said we got it about an hour ago or so. They said they're going to check it again on Friday, which doesn't give me optimism that he's going to be out there on Sunday. Mm-hmm. They're saying with rib injuries, a lot of it, if you don't have any fractures, it's pretty much a pain tolerance thing.
Yeah,
but as a running back,
every time you breathe.
I was going to say, and especially as a running back, if you're going to be running into the teeth of a defensive line, just having 300-pounders just hit you in your midsection, then that's very concerning. So any Daryl Henderson owners might want to pick up Sony Michel if he's on the waivers. Yeah. He got 10 carries after Henderson got hurt.
Yeah, his carries definitely went up, but I mean that's just in lieu of injury.
And then Jake Funk was a third down back, so any sort of deep PPR leagues get some Jake Funk, the 7th round rookie.
Get some Funk and lovin'. Let's go to the Colts. Big story with them. Carson Wentz hurt again? Are you kidding me?
Carson Wentz, not one, but 2 sprained ankles in the ball game. I didn't know it was possible to sprain both your ankles.
Did he sprain the same ankle twice? Or both?
2 sprained ankles, both of his ankles. And it had me thinking when I was driving over here, Stein. So you mentioned on our last podcast how the Colts were going to be like the mid-season, what's the Hard Knocks? They're the mid-season Hard Knocks. So I actually saw a meme after you had told me about that, and it was saying Carson Wentz on the midseason Hard Knocks, and it was the picture of that dude from SpongeBob from the chocolate episode.
Glass bones and stuff.
Yeah, where he's got like the full body cast on and the everything.
I think I saw that one too.
And this is actually coming true. Like they put that out before this game. Sprains both of his ankles. He's unquestionable for week 3. Jacob Eason had to come into the game for the last 2 series. They actually had a chance to tie or win the ball game.
First passing attempt by Jacob Eason gets picked.
Yeah, he overthrew his receiver and goes right to the guy for the Rams for the interception, and then they try like the hook and ladder last chance effort with like 30 seconds left.
Yeah, but before Wentz goes down, just 20 for 31, 247 with 1 touchdown, one pick. Not terrible, but sacked 3 times, and this guy just keeps getting eaten alive back there.
That's another stat that I saw. It's been like 12 straight games, I think, where he's been sacked 3 or more times, and that's just, that goes back to his Eagles days when he was the most sacked guy last season, but we thought he was going to an improved Colts offensive line, supposed to be one of the best in the league, and it seems like it's a recurring theme for him.
Speaking of offensive line, they just can't get it in on the ground really at all. Jonathan Taylor, 15 for 51, but stuffed. They were stuck. They had the ball first and goal and like the 1 and just couldn't get it in.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor this season is leading the league in touches inside the 10-yard line, and in this game he had, like you said, 3 or 4 carries inside the 5-yard line at the 1-yard line where he just got stuffed every single time. And it was that first possession of the ball game for the Colts where they went for it on 4th and goal. Wentz got sacked, and you think if they kick a field goal, obviously you can't predict at the end of the game it's going to be a 3-point game, but just think if they get any sort of points on the board there, then it could have been at least overtime.
Yeah, they did go for it on 4th down, and I was saying take the points, but what do we know? Hindsight's 2020.
Of course, because it didn't work, it's like, oh, it's a terrible call. But it's like if they get it on 4th and goal, then it's like, oh, what a great call. The
classic. If there's one silver lining, Colts fans, it's that Michael Pittman. We said last week, the receivers weren't very good, but Michael Pittman 8 for 123, no touchdown, but those are very good signs for your receiving core.
Yeah, definitely a miss for me on my sit-em calls, as he was one of the guys I picked at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, you did say Tyler Boyd too to sit.
I actually didn't put him in my official.
Not in the official one, but in our show.
There was one of the guys that I would say to sit. So Definitely wrong on that aspect, but a good game for Pittman. I do like to see the second-year guy have a great game, and hopefully, depending on who he's got at quarterback week 3, they do play the Titans, so a kind of a tougher matchup.
Divisional,
We'll see who's going to be out there at quarterback, whether it's Wentz or Eason.
Bottom line, though, Rams are legit. This was a good win for them. Stafford still looking good. Colts have just been unlucky, kind of getting these matchups against better teams.
I was going to say, they played the Rams and Seahawks first 2 weeks, 2 probable playoff teams, and played both of them pretty close.
Colts are still a good team. They've just gotten unlucky, but just Wentz has just not been looking good. Not like, remember at the beginning in our preseason shows, we said that, this is going to be, Wentz has to be successful for this team to be successful, and he hasn't been.
Yeah, they just got, now the biggest thing is just having him healthy, as he's had the foot injury and now 2 ankle injuries so far.
Moving on to a complete ass whooping of the Bills, beating the Dolphins 35-0. That is a skunking, Roach. Josh Allen didn't even have to do too much.
I was going to say, I mean, if you look at his stat line, it's nothing great, but like you said, in a 35-0 ball game, he really didn't have to put the team on his shoulders. So under 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception in the ball game. The run game really took over once they got the lead.
Yeah.
Moss and Singletary were both great in this ball game. Moss being active this week had 2 touchdowns.
Moss was the touchdown guy. Singletary was the long run guy. I have him 21 rushes for 108 yards. Nice little combo between the two. And also the Bills defense looking good. 6 sacks on the game, 9 tackles for loss. 2 of them by rookie Greg Russo from Miami. So remember we talked in our preseason game how they need to get some pressure. This is how they do it, looking good. And pretty much the game was never close. And
it was 14-0 in the first quarter. Tua got hurt in the first quarter, and that was really the end of it for the Dolphins offense. And that's why you see such a great stat line from this Bills defense that is good, but mainly playing against a backup quarterback in Jacoby Brissett, as Tua goes down with the rib injury, just like we were saying before, Daryl Henderson. After all the testing, it looks like it's just bruised ribs, no fractures, so it's going to be, once again, a pain tolerance thing to see if he can start in week 3.
Yeah, but, Roach, I said, Tua going down, could this be the beginning of the end for Tua?
I don't know. I mean, you saw he had the hip problems at the end of his career in Alabama. He had the problems last season where Fitzpatrick kind of had to clean up his mess a couple of times. There's been the rumors about Deshaun Watson. Once again, I feel like that'll come up because of the Tua injury. So he's kind of getting onto his last straws. I mean, you can't really fault a guy for getting injured, but it's tough to really be on the back of a guy that if he's not out there and not performing when he is healthy and out there, then he's not doing anything to make it better for himself.
Yeah. I thought for him to really stick, he was going to have to light the world on fire, and in these first two games, he's done pretty much everything but that. Brissett comes in backup duty. Listen to this: 40 pass attempts for 169 yards.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, once Brissett came into the game, you knew the Bills' defense was going to feast. I mean, that's just terrible comparison in terms of the pass attempts to the actual yards that he got. So
Dolphins' run game didn't even exist. I don't think anyone was over 25 yards rushing. And then I will say Jalen Waddle is developing. He had a few catches, so he's a bright spot.
Him and Devontae Parker both had decent ball games. Speaking of their wide receiver position, Will Fuller, who was done with his suspension, out from this game due to a personal issue. He was back at the Dolphins facility on Monday, and he's expected to suit up in week 3, so that's a good sign, and maybe one bright spot to this Dolphins team to at least get him back for the receiving core.
Yeah. Bottom line, though, of this game, Bills are far and away, I think, the best AFC East team after this performance. Dolphins with the huge regression. I still think the Dolphins are better than the score suggests. It's just their offense just couldn't get anything going.
Yeah, and it's just all the headlines are going to be about Tua, see if he can go out there for week 3, maybe sit out a week, and then have him back healthier for week 4.
Yeah, but this could be his last shot if, depending on what happens for Tua. All right, moving on to the Patriots taking on the lowly Jets. Pats are going to take this one 25-6. Kind of sounds scoregami-ish, but I don't think it was. I don't think we had any scoregamis. Jets are going to fall to 0-2, and the name of this game, I know we have the Pats listed first in the show sheet, but let's talk about the Jets and Mr. Zach Wilson and his I guess, coming out party.
Yeah, as Bill Belichick has been known to kind of feast on rookie quarterbacks facing his defense, and this one did not disappoint in that category as Zach Wilson, 4 interceptions, 4 sacks in the game. I went back and looked at some of the highlights from this game. He could have had 6 or 7 interceptions, a Nate Peterman-esque performance in this ball game.
Yeah, some of the memes were coming out. I
mean, he just kept trying to push the ball downfield, and like every single time it was either inaccurate or a tip pass. I mean, 1 or 2 of his the first interception was a ball that was batted up in the air and like tipped twice and then intercepted.
Yeah.
But the 3rd and 4th ones especially were just overthrown, bad balls thrown.
He's passing where the receiver's supposed to be, or he thinks it's going to be, but maybe miscommunication and just not looking good at all. I think in a post-game interview, Robert Saleh said that, he can't play, it's fine, playing boring football.
But once again, I think kind of the problem stems to, we were talking about Sam Darnold getting out of that situation, not as much on the coaching staff, but just the players around him. I mean, Tevin Coleman, Ty Johnson, Michael Carter, 3-headed, I wouldn't even call it a 3-headed monster, the 3 guys getting
duck.
the 3 stooges at running back. And then you have Braxton Berrios as your leading receiver, had 7 receptions.
I didn't even
for
think he was
75
still in the
yards.
NFL.
That's such a bad sign for your team. I mean, Jamison Crowder was out and should be back next week in the slot to take his snaps, but
Elijah Moore just not looking that,
he had an okay game, 4 catches overall. Corey Davis, huge regression, 2 receptions for 8 yards in the ball game. I think he was the target for at least 2 of Wilson's 4 interceptions. But yeah, we said that there's going to be some growing pains for Zach Wilson this season, as he probably ends up in the worst situation, and one of the rookie quarterbacks actually starting week 1.
Probably going to get the bad performance of the week award, if we're going to give that out. We'll talk about the Patriots. Really, the team just didn't make any mistakes. They were supposed to do.
There's really not much to talk about from them. The defense was obviously great against Wilson. They had 4 field goals in this ball game, and the difference was where Zach Wilson was making the mistakes with all the turnovers. Mac Jones played a clean football game. The one fumble that he had, his offensive lineman recovered it. They had a couple of rushing touchdowns, one from James White, one from Damian Harris, where if you want to talk about the woes of the Jets, watch that Damian Harris touchdown run as he broke about 8 tackles from Jets defenders.
That was a big red zone highlight. So bottom line for this game, Pats feast on a rookie QB. Jets just looking awful on all facets. And I'll just say the Pats played well against a bad team. I don't think the Pats are going to be world beaters, but they just played well against a bad team.
Yeah, there's a couple of teams that it's almost a free win when you face them, and the Jets are going to be one of those teams this season.
I said last game looked like a scoregami. This next one, 49ers topping the Eagles 17-11. An ugly score.
I meant to look up and see if this was a scoregami.
I don't think we had any scoragamis because I was following on Twitter.
But yeah, so 17-11 ball game, just a very ugly looking score. And the 49ers, we were hoping that the injury woes would kind of subside them that they had from all last season. How about all 3 running backs getting hurt for them in this ball game? You have Trey Sermon, who was active this week after being inactive week 1. 1 carry on the hit.
1 concussion. That's good stats right there.
Yeah, 1 carry, 1 concussion as he goes into the concussion protocol on that 1 carry. JaMychal Hasty, a high ankle sprain. He's already been ruled out for week 3 by Kyle Shanahan. And then Elijah Mitchell, the darling from week 1, had a shoulder injury in the ball game, but returned after those other 2 guys that I just mentioned got hurt, and was able to finish out the ball game. So Sermon and Mitchell are both questionable for week 3. They've tried out a couple running backs. Duke Johnson, Lamar Miller, TJ Yeldon all getting a tryout for this team. Trenton Cannon, the guy that was on Baltimore's roster week 1, we know the running back troubles that they've been having. He's the only other running back on their active roster. So just all sorts of injuries. Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson in the offseason. Just a carousel of running backs for the 49ers.
Yeah, everyone seems to be broken on that offense. I don't even know if it's Shanahan, because when Shanahan was with Atlanta, we really never had running back woes with Devontae and Tevin Coleman. You think maybe it's on the blocking schemes or something like that, but maybe it's just unlucky, injury bug.
I mean, with this many injuries, I feel like it just has to be
something cosmic is going on. Brandon Ayuk out there, 1 catch on 2 targets.
So we mentioned he was another big headline for them last week. He at least outsnapped the guy that is supposed to be quote unquote worse than him, and Trent Sherfield 38-24. But overall, they had similar production out there on the field. No one was really notable for this 49ers offense except for Deebo Samuel had almost 100 yards receiving. Kittle struggled, 4 catches for 17 yards.
Yeah,
so,
Deebo's probably the only one who's looking legit. And even the quarterback situation, I mean, Lance didn't play this game, but you still think that he's going to, be somebody who's going to get involved as the season goes on.
Yeah, once again, I mean, Jimmy G didn't really do anything to hurt his starting job, but really didn't do anything to improve, I guess, in terms of handling the starting job long term.
All right, moving on to the Eagles. And just boring stat line again. Like this overall was a boring game, but like Eagles, Jalen Hurts.
He was really the only star from this game. Passing wise, he didn't do much.
Not as well against the Falcons defense. I feel like the Niners defense is a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah, I would say just a tad, Stein, but he was their leading rusher, had like 80 yards and a touchdown, so a great game running the football for him. Probably one of the weirdest stats from the game. They had a 91-yard reception to Quez Watkins and ended up not getting any points on the board because they went for it on 4th down and didn't get it. So
it was very Randall Cunningham-esque throw. That ball must have been in the air for at least 70 yards by Jalen Hurts. And it kind of shows what this Eagles offense is capable of, but they just do what the Falcons do and not get any points in the red zone. And a 91-yard reception to get no points, that doesn't happen every day.
In terms of the other pass catchers, no one was really notable. Devontae Smith only had like 2 catches in this ball game. Goddard didn't really do much. Miles Sanders was pretty ineffective. So overall, offensively, there wasn't. I mean, when you score 11 points, there's not going to be much from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah. Had a couple guys go down.
I was going to say more injuries on the offensive line. You got Brandon Brooks with a pec strain, probably going to be on IR, maybe out for longer. And then on the defensive side, a huge loss for this Eagles defense. Defensive end Brandon Graham out for the season with a torn Achilles.
Yeah, a lot of these guys have been, going to miss multiple weeks, but Brandon Graham out for the season, not good at all for the Eagles. Bottom line from this game, though, like I said, boring game. Someone had to win. Niners didn't look that good. Eagles didn't look that good. I think just the Niners got the better of them.
Yeah, they come from the better division in the NFC West over the NFC East.
This might make the Niners probably the weakest team in the NFC East right now, I would say.
Yeah, I would say with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback with the injuries that they're dealing with, that yes, I think you're correct. That they're the weakest team in that division.
Make the argument. All right, moving on to a very historical matchup and probably my favorite pick of that week that I made.
Yeah, this was a big pick for you, Stein, and probably one of the biggest reasons that you won this week.
Yeah, was the Raiders winning 26-17 over the Steelers. And just a great game all around.
I think we need to start giving Derek Carr a little more respect. I mean,
honestly,
over 800 passing yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 interceptions against Ravens and Steelers.
Yeah,
defenses.
I'm saying 2 games. Don't think 800 passing yards in 1 game. But...
Well, yeah, in the 2 games, but against those elite defenses, when you talk about the Ravens and Steelers, both probably top 10, even top 5 defenses in the league, and really just carving them up. He did have an ankle injury in this game. John Gruden says that he's going to be questionable for next week, so we'll have to monitor that going into next week's game.
Yeah, I was about to say, they bring it on. Marcus Mariota got hurt too, so now they signed, what's his name? Slaughter.
Kyle Sloter.
Slider. Yeah, he plays baseball. So just, it's going to be an interesting quarterback carousel as we talked about the other guys that went down. So we see Carr get a little bit shaken up. But the running game, pretty much non-existent. And we knew that Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake were both kind of, Jacobs especially was going to be hurt.
Well, yeah, I was going to say Josh Jacobs was out, so Kenyon Drake was really the lead receiving back in this game, and then you had Peyton Barber was your leading rusher, but he had like 13 carries for 32 yards in this game. Drake was ineffective in his carries. He at least had like 5 catches for almost 50 yards. But Derek Carr really passing the ball or spreading the wealth in this ballgame. You saw in week 1, 19 targets to Darren Waller. It was really more evenly spread in this one. Henry Ruggs had a long touchdown catch. Renfro got his targets. Waller, of course, got his. So just spreading the ball around in this one. And I think that's really what was effective against the Steelers defense.
Yeah. Steelers-wise, pretty similar to last week's performance, just overall. Big Ben is unhappy with his offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, though, as they're not getting, Big Ben hasn't been putting up the numbers that he has put. I mean, the guy is 39, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's what in his post-game press conference he was talking about, or they were asking him about like play callings and trying to go like hurry up in a 2-minute drill since they were down by 9 points in this ball game late, and he basically said, asked Canada about it. He's the offensive coordinator, the guy calling the play, so kind of giving him taking a shot at him, throwing him under the bus
putting the blame on him. We do have Deontay Johnson getting hurt on the final play of the game. He did avoid major injury, also led the team with 12 targets. We were talking about the three-headed monster of receivers. So this was kind of Deontay Johnson's game. Last week was more... Juju had a pretty good game too.
Juju did have a rushing touchdown in this game on a sweep play. Claypool had 9 targets, but only turned that into 3 receptions for 70 yards. So he's going to be the deep threat that he'll definitely have his boom week, but overall in the first 2 weeks kind of more bust. But if Deontay Johnson has to go down for any sort of extended period of time, that could be a huge loss for this Steelers defense that really hasn't looked good in these first couple games.
Offense.
Or the Steelers offense.
Speaking of Steelers defense, though, TJ Watt injury with a groin, maybe that could have been the reason why they kind of lost this game, was losing TJ Watt.
Yeah, of course, a big difference maker on the defensive side of the football for the Steelers.
Yeah, had a sack before he got hurt, too.
They're saying that he's got a chance to play in week 3, but groin injury, kind of like the hamstring injury, just those muscles, it's kind of tough to gauge how long the guys are going to be out. Naji Harris did have a better game than he did in week 1. Not as much running the football, was great out of the backfield catching the football, had 5 catches and a receiving touchdown down the sideline, so a much better week 2 for him compared to his debut.
Yeah. Bottom line, the Raiders are quietly 2-0 against 2 better teams. Maybe we should take them seriously. And the Steelers, I would say that you can make the argument that they might be the most average team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, we were very low on the Steelers going into this season. They impressed us with the win against the Bills week 1. Now losing against the Raiders, a team that, they're 2-0, but a team that we didn't think was going to be that good going into this season. So, yeah, I'd say the Steelers are going to be a pretty average team.
You could say that they're number 52. I'm not number 15. What is 52? I think I saw someone in a Clay Matthews jersey on TV.
And then going on to the Raiders with them being 2-0, I think just with Gruden and this whole team, they're eventually going to have some sort of fallout. It's kind of like the Mets in baseball that we always talk about. Oh, they're in first place, but when are the injuries and stuff going to finally catch up to them? I think it's going to be the same thing with the Raiders.
One last point on this game. Najee Harris did look better. I know he said he was going to have improvement, and he did. So he had a hell of a stiff arm on Jonathan Abram.
Yeah, I heard about that. I actually didn't get to see that part, but I heard that it was a very Derrick Henry-esque stiff arm that he had on him.
So definitely an improvement for Najee Harris, Harris owners. All right, moving on to the Saints taking on the Panthers in Pantherland. Panthers taking this one, moving to 2-0 as well. Saints dropping this one after a routing of the Packers.
Yeah, the Saints had the highest of highs in week 1, winning against Green Bay 38-3. Probably the lowest of lows now, just scoring 7 points and losing this one to the Panthers. A back-down-to-earth game for Jameis Winston. Had a couple interceptions.
Yeah, a couple of his famous turnovers.
He was actually their leading rusher in this ball game. Had a rushing touchdown. Alvin Kamara, 8 carries for 5 yards. And then Lil Jordan Humphrey was their leading receiver with 1 catch for 27 yards. Kamara had 4 catches for 25 yards. So just overall, the offense, not as good as that 5 touchdown performance from Jameis. The defense wasn't as good as they were against Aaron Rodgers. Sam Darnold had a good game. Christian McCaffrey had a good game. DJ Moore, a great game as well. And then the Panthers defense really stepped up against the Saints.
Yeah, Panthers defense looking very underrated and looking good. And then how about Darnold? He's been good. He's been doing what he's been needing to do.
Yeah, he threw for over 300 yards in this ball game. I think 2 touchdowns to 1 interception. So just overall, like I said, when you have the weapons around him that he's got with McCaffrey, with Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, like I said, just getting away from the Jets and actually having good players around you, it makes you a better quarterback.
You know what I feel like this is? This is my analogy of the week. You know when you have a really stuffy nose for a few days, and you finally, the stuffy nose goes away, maybe by the end of the week, and you can breathe clearly? That's how that's how Sam Darnold is. When he was on the Jets, he couldn't breathe and he had that stuffy nose. But now he's on the Panthers, he can breathe.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take these two Panthers games, obviously.
With a great assault.
Yeah, they're playing the Jets week 1 and then the Saints, who we knew were going to eventually come back down to earth and weren't as good as that 38-3 ball game. So, and then they play the Texans this upcoming week. They've got a pretty easy front half of the schedule. So
yeah,
that's
what the Texans being their one AFC, extra opponent with the 17th game. So that'll be an interesting Thursday night matchup. But I mean, the bottom line from this game, I say the Saints might be a little bit of flukish, especially with the way they looked.
Like I said, no one thought that they were going to be as good as they were week 1. I think the more realistic prediction is going to be somewhere around 500 for them, and it really showed from how good they were week 1 to how bad they were. So it's got to meet somewhere in the middle.
And then the Panthers are definitely trending upwards, but are probably still not a threat.
Yeah, I mean, I think this puts them as more of a dark horse, like wild card contender, but they're definitely not going to be challenging the Bucs for the division.
Let's see them play the Bucs or some of these other like the NFC West teams and see what happens. All right, moving on to your probably worst pick of the week.
Oh, this is your worst
I was
gonna say not even probably.
This might be your worst pick of the season.
I have no idea why I picked the Jaguars in this ball game, Stein. I remember even talking about it when we were making our picks for this game, and I said
your justification was.
Oh, and I said I was like, oh yeah, I picked up Teddy Bridgewater in a fantasy league because I had Trevor Lawrence as my only quarterback, and I benched Trevor Lawrence for Teddy Bridgewater. If I did that, why would I pick the Jaguars in this ballgame when I'm starting the quarterback for the other team and benching the quarterback for the team I picked in this ballgame? I have no idea why I made this pick, but the Jaguars lose this game 23-13, and Trevor just once again did not look good. 2 more interceptions in this ballgame.
Yeah, garbage time stats. And I will say they did finally give, James Robinson more carries than Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, it's crazy. You give more carries to the running back that is better.
Led the league almost last year. I think he did lead the league in rushing yards or one of the...
No, Derrick Henry was the leader in rushing yards.
One of the guys, top rushers last year. Laviska Shenault does go out with an injury. Urban Meyer said he probably will be able to go week 3. Interesting, though, they posted on the Twitter that, they're already apologizing to fans on week 2.
Yeah, Urban Meyer put out this, inspirational quote saying, Jacksonville fans, stick with us. We'll be able to turn it around.
The story is writing itself. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, what did you expect, Urban? This is a 1-15 team from last season that really didn't do much to change going into this season besides getting the new quarterback. So
he just can't get me to buy into this team,
It's pretty hard to buy into the Jacksonville Jaguars, so
a guy like him should be able to, but it's just the fact that they hired him. I just think was such a mistake. Anyways, also James O'Shaughnessy out 3 to 4 weeks, so pretty much whatever tight end they had.
I was gonna say, I mean, he played decent week 1. He had 6 catches on 8 targets, had a 24-yard catch before he left in this one. So they've got Luke Farrell, the rookie out of Ohio State. And then they've got Chris Manhertz, and I think those are the 2 tight ends that they got left on the roster. Are they going to bring Tebow back, maybe? No, I guess that could be in the cards, but just some weapons for Trevor Lawrence that are going down. And then the one bright spot you could say from this game is they do have the longest touchdown of the season so far now, as Jamal Agnew had a 102-yard kickoff return for a touchdown in this ball game, so one of the few bright spots that you could say from the Jaguars, but this team, like the Jets, is going to be one of the few that when you play them is probably going to be a free win.
Yeah. And then the Broncos side of the ball, I think the Broncos are kind of similar to the Panthers. Might not be as good as the Panthers, but teams that have faced some bad teams.
I was going to say, we've had 3 teams in a row when you talk about the Raiders, Panthers, and now Broncos that I don't think we really expected any of them to go 2-0 to start out the season. Yeah, the most surprising
2-0 teams.
But like you said, the Broncos playing the Giants, playing the Jaguars their first 2 weeks, so we'll have to see them play.
They got the Jets next week.
I was going to say, we'll have to see them play the Chiefs or something like that from their division to see really how legit they are.
And the Raiders to see if they're legit.
Teddy did have a great ball game in this one, 300 yards receiving or passing, 2 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams continue to split the running back work, and the big question mark with Jerry Jeudy going down, who's going to step up at wide receiver. Cortland Sutton, 9 catches, 159 yards in this ball game.
Yeah, he was my fantasy sit that mess up of the week. I had him on my bench.
You had him on your bench.
I last minute switched to I put Ronald Jones because the Ronald Jones was facing the Falcons on my flex.
I mean, going into this week, I probably would have done the same thing, but also Tim Patrick having a touchdown in this ball game, so they're able to kind of fill in for the injury to Jerry Jeudy, and like we said, the Broncos improving to 2-0 this season.
Bottom line, Jags stink, but Broncos, similar to the Panthers, trending up, but they've just faced bad teams.
So let's hop into the 4 o'clock games, and all 4 of these 4 o'clock games were close for the most part, and we'll say for one of them it was close until the fourth quarter, but they were all great games in the 4 o'clock window, and the first one we'll talk about is probably my favorite, and that was the Minnesota Vikings, Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals edging out the Vikings, moving to 2-0 on the season. Vikings going to 0-2. 7 lead changes in this ball game. Pretty much every scoring possession in the second half, let the other team go up, the other team responded. So just a great back and forth between these two teams.
Yeah, this was one of those games where, I wasn't watching as much, but I was kind of keeping tabs on Twitter and, just the scores kept flipping, just the way it's going. And what really was the ending to this game was the Vikings. It's, Groundhog's Day for them with their kicking and easy field goals?
Yeah, Blair Walsh strikes again as Greg Joseph missed a 37-yard field goal.
And the irony of it was the announcer for the Vikings said it was good. Imagine,
the Vikings radio announcer, and it was a radio announcer. It wasn't even the TV guy, so you could have seen it. But yeah, the Vikings radio guy got all excited and was like, "Oh, the Vikings win it! The Vikings win it!" And then he's like, "Oh no, he actually missed it.
Oh no, we lost the football game."
So a heartbreaking loss for the Vikings. They moved to 0-2. Joseph also had a missed extra point in this ball game, so it would have been a 34-34 ball game potentially. So overtime, where they could have at least gone to overtime and once again had a chance to win it.
Yeah. Dalvin Cook goes down twice during this game and is now listed with a small ankle sprain. Roach, I don't know what his current status is for next weekend. But
yeah, I think he's going to be good to go for next week, but it was always scary, especially as a Dalvin Cook fantasy owner.
And as an Alexander Madison fantasy owner.
He got stood up on one run and think he kind of tweaked his back maybe, and then the second one kind of got rolled up on. So anytime a guy leaves the field because of an injury and has to go into the blue tent is always troubling, but I think he escaped from any sort of major injury and should be back out there next week.
Yeah, and then rookie KJ Osborne, he had a long touchdown. He's also the team's leading receiver.
Yeah, I mean, they got Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, the big 1-2 punch for them. Yeah. I mean, both of them still had great games. Thielen had another touchdown, his third of the season. Yeah. Justin Jefferson is right behind him in terms of receiving yards.
Yeah, I think he had a touchdown as well. Jefferson had a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. So they're both of those guys having great ball games, but
Osborne could be a huge fantasy pickup.
I was just say, but the rookie and really in this Vikings offense in the past, just because you've had Cook, Jefferson, Thielen, there hasn't really been room for another mouth to feed. But with them kind of trailing and having to throw the ball a lot in these first couple ball games, Kirk Cousins has been doing really well, and that's what's led to them having another great receiver on this team.
Yeah. Let's go to the Cardinals side of the ball. Kyler, despite 2 picks, was still throwing 4 touchdowns and moving everywhere again.
Yeah, I think it was 3 touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. I think I combined them for 4 overall, and then just the play of the game for him. A 4th and 5 late in the ball game. The Vikings send a cover 0 blitz on him, and he's just backpedaling, kind of throws it off his back foot. And then it throws it to Christian Kirk for a long pass downfield. Just an amazing throw and catch, just off balance. And it's one of those plays. Kyler's had a couple of them in these first 2 weeks where just showing how good that he's going to be this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's totally looking like an MVP despite the 2 picks. Probably going to have to cut down on some of those forced throws, but everything just looking good.
I think this might be a Josh Allen 2020 type season in 2021 for Kyler. At least it's kind of starting out like that.
Yeah. Rondell Moore also and Max Williams both looking, as viable weapons for the Cardinals offense, which we really thought, Christian Kirk and D-Hop, but
Yeah, the Moore and Williams were the 2 leading receivers actually for this Cardinals team this past week. I mean, AJ Green and D-Hop both had touchdowns in the ball game, but in terms of receiving yards, they weren't as effective. So if Kyler can really spread the ball around to 5 or 6 guys, then it's going to keep any sort of defense guessing on who to cover and really have to just spread out.
If Chase Edmonds can kind of be a game manager as a running back, this Cardinals team will be good.
That's what he had a decent ball game as well. Of course, led the team on the ground, had 5 receptions as well. So he's definitely their pass catching back. So just overall a great start to the season for the Cardinals and 2 tough losses for the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, Cardinals survive. They should have lost this game if a kick would have went the other way. But 2-0 is 2-0, and you can't argue with that no matter what the score says.
They don't apologize for winning.
Yeah, exactly. Vikings, I would say, are similar to the Steelers, just painfully average right now.
Yeah, and I mean, that's pretty much what I'm pretty sure they were 8-8 last season, and we've said that Kirk Cousins is one of the most average quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, they don't do a lot of things super good, but they also don't do a lot of things super bad. So, it's just painfully average. All right, next game. Do we have to?
Yeah, Stein, we got to cover every single game. The Atlanta Falcons versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The over of the week, 48-25.
Yeah, and one that we thought was going to be a blowout, but actually ended up being close in the third quarter.
At one point, yes.
Yeah, but 2 pick sixes for the Buccaneers really sealed the deal for them.
By the same damn guy.
In the fourth. Yeah, so the Falcons were down 28-25 in the third. Like I said, they were outscored 20-0 in the fourth quarter because of the 2 pick sixes by something Edwards, I think was his name.
Yeah,
Mario something.
Carson Edwards.
It wasn't Mario Edwards, but a 48-25 final as the Bucs come away with the victory.
He had a taunting penalty, so he doesn't get his, the NFL, he shouldn't get his name announced.
Tom Brady, 5 touchdown passes. He's got 9 touchdown passes in his first 2 games. Just kind of the same song and dance for him. Gronk was great again, 2 more touchdown catches.
Looking like 2013 Gronk.
Mike Evans with a bounce back game after not doing much in week 1 against the Cowboys. He had 2 touchdowns in this one. He seemed to always kill the Falcons, so
it's just a same song and dance. Brady will always have the Falcons number.
Stays undefeated against them in his career.
Yeah, I mean, Falcons did look a little bit better at some points. I think Matt was only sacked once.
The Falcons had 3 sacks in the ball game, and the Bucs only had 1 against the Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons also getting some turnovers on some defense, but unfortunately,
Brady did lose a fumble.
Unfortunately, Matt causing some turnovers, but they were both tipped at the line, both of the pick sixes. So those aren't, really. I wouldn't say those are super Matt's fault, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but the thing that gets me, Stein, is Cordell Patterson being the most effective receiver,
2 touchdowns,
running
okay?
back,
Come on,
whatever you want to call him in this ball game.
Let's not argue with greatness.
If Cordell Patterson is getting consistent touches, like I said, I'm pretty sure I said it last week too, then your team is pretty much set up for failure.
Cordell Patterson's going to be up there with like Dontay Poe and OCU Manora and Steven Jackson for like the most forgettable Falcons. I'm calling it now.
That's what he actually had a decent ball game. Ridley responded. He had a better ball game
had
with a touchdown catch.
Kyle Pitts, leading receiver, finally getting the ball to him. We'll hope that they can finally get him in the end zone and he can have that statement game that we can expect, because Falcons got the Giants next week. So, I mean, it's
going to be one of the few games the Falcons have a chance at winning. I hate to say it, but overall this game kind of went how we expected. I think it almost hurt more for Falcons fans that they gave
hope. They gave us hope, which, the Falcons giving us hope is that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, so the Bucs go away with the victory to 2-0 on the season. Falcons will try and get their first
Bottom
win next
line,
week.
Falcons are eternally cursed. Bucs are legit. What else is new? Honestly, the question now is who's can rise from the dog fight that is the NFC to challenge these Bucs.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to look for one of those teams from the NFC West to try and accomplish that.
Yeah, NFC West or the Packers, honestly.
With how the Packers are looking, who knows?
Yeah, I think it might just be NFC West only right now. All right, moving on to the Chargers against America's team, the Cowboys. Cowboys taking this one in a close one, 20-17.
Yeah, this was a close one, but kind of like some of those games from earlier where it was almost boring just because it was a low-scoring close game at 20-17. But the big headliner for the Cowboys as they get the victory and their first win of the season is Tony Pollard outperforming Ezekiel Elliott. He had a 100-yard rushing game, was better receiving the football slightly. And Zeke, I mean, he had a good ball game. He had 60, 70 yards rushing and a touchdown on the ground, but it's a little concerning that we've seen games with Tony Pollard outperforming Zeke We thought with Dak coming back that Zeke would be more effective, but now after kind of one mediocre week last week and then this week just being
Zeke's stock is down right now, and let's be honest, it's not looking the best. We could see a platoon really being formed, kind of like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb with Tony Pollard.
The only problem is this Cowboys offense, I would say, is lean to more of a passing attack
That's
of an
true.
offense.
Yeah, they're trying to. I think they're kind of like a case of like missing identity. They don't know if they're a running or a passing team, and it's like we think they have a good running back because they have Zeke, but Zeke probably isn't the same Zeke and probably never will be again. I mean, we just know that with running backs.
There were mentions last year about him losing a step, and like I said, Pollard has just looked like the quicker, more effective running back. We go back to last season a couple times, and then just in this game, he looked much better. So if Tony Pollard's out there on your waivers, I would try and get him for a pickup.
Yeah. And then Amari Cooper, another rib injury. That's been the theme of the week.
Yeah, that was late in the ball game, dealing with some bruised ribs. So once again, pain tolerance thing. Hopefully we'll be out there week 3. Didn't have a great game in this one anyway after the amazing week 1. He only had 3 catches. CeeDee Lamb was their leading receiver. And Dak didn't have any touchdown passes in this ball game, but still able to come away with the victory.
Yeah. Let's go to the Charger side of the ball. Justin Herbert struggles. 2 picks against not a very good Cowboys D led by Dan Quinn.
Yeah, Herbert really let me down. I picked him in a lot of my DFS stuff in DraftKings and FanDuel, and he did not perform to the expectations.
Yeah. Mike Williams, though, did look good for them, and he's looked good, like, overall. Kind of looking as a breakout guy.
That's what him and Keenan Allen are looking like, a great 1-2 combo. He had a touchdown this past week. And a guy that was really drafted towards the end of your fantasy drafts, his biggest problem has always been staying healthy. And, I mean, so far so good, knock on wood, for any of you Chargers fans.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was going to be like a Sammy Watkins kind of guy, out of Clemson. But so far he's looked pretty good thus far. Bottom line of this game, though, just a close game talent-wise. Both of these teams are pretty comparable. I will pose the question, though, Roach. Is this kind of the start of the sophomore slump for Justin Herbert?
I don't think so. I think this is just one bad game. I thought he was going to be much better just against a bad defense, but just overall did not perform too well. I say that just because he has the 2 interceptions. He had a 15 straight completions or something like that to start out the ball game. And I think he finished with around 300 passing yards. So I think overall it's just a bad week for him, but I don't think that he'll have a sophomore slump this season. I think he'll be just fine. All
right, moving on to what I would call almost a playoff game, and that's the Titans against the Seahawks. Titans take this one on a fat Randy field goal to win it in overtime.
Man,
this is a great game.
I was sweating by the end of this game, not just because of all the close games in that 4 o'clock window that I was talking about where they all came down to the wire, but just the Seahawks being up 30-16 in this ball game just at the start of the 4th quarter. The Titans coming all the way back and able to force overtime and then win in overtime to take the victory. And this was the game that sealed the deal for me losing this week, since you picked the Titans in this one and I had the Seahawks.
Yeah, this was another one of my, besides the Raiders, kind of like my picks of the week. I knew the Titans were going to have that get-right game and get back in it. It was going to be a hard matchup against a really good Seattle team, and this one came down to the wire. I'll go ahead and give the bottom line for this game before we get into really the players. This was playoff-esque, Roach. If these guys play each other 10 times, it's going to be a 50-50 split,
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And just credit to the Titans for not only being able to come back in this ball game, but going to Seattle, home of the 12th man, their first home game of the season, probably first game with fans in over a year and a half or whatever it may be. So they were loud, they were rowdy the whole time. And just Derrick Henry came out and performed.
Tractor Cito is back. 35 attempts, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, all without their left tackle, Taylor Lewan, who struggled last week.
That's the stat line that I love to see as a Derrick Henry fantasy
35
owner.
Rushes. Come on now.
And then not only as a rusher, but as a receiver, he was 6 for 6 in terms of targets and catches for 55 yards. He was the second leading receiver on this team behind Julio Jones.
Not even that much of a receiving back,
He's never been known as that. He was actually only 13 carries for 34 yards at halftime, so really stepped it up in that trademark Derrick Henry of getting stronger.
They were down. You would think they would be passing it. Wow.
Yeah, getting stronger as the game goes along. So Derrick Henry, a great performance after posting a dud week 1. Ryan Tannehill still just one passing touchdown through the first 2 games, so still trying to get his feet under him with the new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but you said a good game for Julio.
Yeah, 6 catches for 128 yards. Like I said, the leading receiver after he posted a dud once again.
And our boy Fat Randy. Yeah. Gotta love Fat Randy.
Yeah, the Titans have been a carousel of kickers as they released Michael Badgley after his week 1 performance. I think they released a guy at the end of training camp as well. They've had a number of guys in there as their kicker this season already, but able to step up and hit the game-winning field goal.
Yes. Moving on to the Seahawks before we get into the last game. Seahawks, like we said, were leading. Roach, you love that Russ Lockett connection. I know that helps your fantasy team.
Yeah, man. I got Tyler Lockett in a couple leagues. I think he's going to be, with Cooper Kupp, one of the biggest value picks in the draft, picking him around the 4th round. Like I said, they've been the 2 probably most effective receivers and best receivers so far this season. So just once again, they had a great week. Chris Carson, 2 touchdowns on the ground.
Carson was good again.
DK Metcalf kind of mediocre once again in this ball game, just playing second fiddle in this passing attack to Tyler Lockett.
We could easily see that the first 2 weeks, but next week, 2 weeks could be all DK. You know?
Oh yeah, they always go back and forth, and especially Tyler Lockett he's had 2 long touchdown catches in these first 2 games. You could see him disappear and just have like a 1 catch or 2 catch performance.
Yes. All right, y'all waited for it. Finally, the Chiefs and Ravens. And before we get into this game, by the 4th quarter, I turned this one off. You guys can slap me.
Yeah.
You guys can. I thought it was over.
You would think you would learn from all these games that just never count out.
I thought it was over. I thought it was over. Okay, I was cheering for the Ravens for my sister, but I thought it was over. You know, I thought it was said and done, put to bed.
The Chiefs were leading pretty much this whole ball game, the majority of the ball game, even by double digits. They're just the 2 dynamic offenses. We said the headlines.
Every time the Ravens scored a touchdown, the Chiefs scored 2 more. That's just how it was.
We said the headlines were all going to be Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Lamar started off very shaky in this ball game. Had a couple of interceptions early, but really turned it around late in this ball game, especially with his legs being their leading rusher with over 100 yards on the ground.
Yeah, and this team, you know, we've talked about it, is missing a lot of pieces on their offense. And the fact that they were able to still run the ball successfully. Tyson Williams looked good, you know,
he had
again.
Almost 80 yards rushing. Like I said, Lamar had over 100, so they had to have had just about 200 yards rushing, if not over 200 yards. Yeah. And then in terms of pass catchers, Hollywood Brown is going back to last season, like the last 5 or 6 games last season, he looked really good. And these first 2 games of this season, he has looked really good. And as that number 1 receiver, we thought maybe with Sammy Watkins coming in here, Mark Andrews got his big payday right before the season started. Yeah. Didn't really know what their passing attack was going to look like, especially with Lamar.
Yeah, we thought Dobbins would be in there. So, you know, Hollywood Brown even doing better than Mark Andrews, the Oklahoma guy, doing better than the other Oklahoma guy.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw his touchdown reception, but Lamar with a little jump pass and put everything on it. You saw that Hollywood Brown, the breakdown in the coverage for the Chiefs, was wide open, able to catch it and then run into the end zone.
Yeah, and then also Lamar had a acrobatic flip into the end zone at one point.
I think that got him a nice 15-yard penalty for taunting as well.
Just doing it all. Also, before we get into the Chiefs, what kind of went wrong for them? Going for it on 4th and 1 to ice the win.
Yeah, everyone saw the video of Harbaugh kind of asking Lamar, like, hey, you want to go for it? And, of course, them going for it. Able to convert on it. A lot of people are saying, oh, it was a great call because you don't want to give Mahomes the ball back. Like, he's just so clutch in those situations. But I think, once again, it goes back to one of those things. Because it worked, it's a great call. But it just, in that situation, you don't get it. Mahomes is going to get the ball back anyway in your territory. So just make it even easier for him to come back and score. There's only about a minute left on the clock at that time. So just a big ballsy play by Harbaugh ends up paying off. Lamar seals the deal for him and the Ravens.
Yeah, and on the Chiefs side of the ball, I mean, Mahomes was doing Mahomes things. Kelsey was doing Kelsey things. The one guy not doing one guy things was Tyreek Hill.
3 catches for 14 yards on 4 targets in this ball game. They showed a highlight package of it. He was double teamed pretty much the whole night. The Ravens were playing the safety over top, trying to make sure they didn't blow the top off of them. But it gave a chance for some Chiefs receivers like Demarcus Robinson, Mecole Hardman to step up, and they really did. Demarcus Robinson had a touchdown in the ball game, but just a credit to the Ravens defense, to really one of the few teams in the league to shut down Tyreek Hill, and I know he's given them problems in their previous matchups.
Yeah, and it came down to 2 turnovers that really messed up the Chiefs' kind of momentum, and that was the Mahomes, interception to give the Ravens their go-ahead.
Bad interception for Mahomes where he was getting tackled, trying to make something out of nothing, threw it to the Ravens. That led to their go-ahead touchdown. And then, of course, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a late fumble as the Chiefs were driving down the field, down by a point, looking to set up either a game-winning touchdown or field goal. The fumble, Ravens recover, and that's what led to the Ravens being able to ice the game.
Yeah, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is getting a little too much flack for it. I think he's still going to be a good running back. He's just kind of been struggling to start off the season. Bottom line from this game, Roach, Ravens never say die like the Goonies.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Chiefs kind of need to learn how to close the game out. They were dominant through most of this game. I feel like they fell asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, and like I said, it was just those costly mistakes. Like if Mahomes just taking the sack, keep the drive going. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire obviously hold on to the football, it's just those mistakes that come back to bite you, and give credit to the Ravens for being able to capitalize on those Chiefs mistakes.
Yeah, they're going to have to play a 60-minute ball game going forward.
And they finally able to beat this Chiefs team that in the Lamar Mahomes head-to-head matchup had been all Mahomes in their previous matchups.
Yes. All right, guys, so before we end it, we'll kind of give our update. We already said that I won this week, 11-4, pending on the... Oh, Devontae Adams just made a sick catch.
Packers actually losing this football game right now. They're down 17-14 to start the second half. We both have the Packers in this ball game. But yeah, Stein 11-4 this past week. I went 9-6. We kind of glanced over at Stein. I mentioned about how you had the great picks with the Raiders and the Titans. Yeah. I do want to say I correctly predicted that Panthers game with the Saints end up laying a big goose egg.
Yeah, I would say that was probably my bad pick of the week.
I would say that was my biggest win of the week. We talked about how it was kind of a trap game picking the Saints in that ball game. So give me my one bright spot before I got to do this punishment.
And I mean, both of us were going to pick like the Chiefs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So
both of us 18-12 through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a 600 winning percentage.
There we go.
I did the math.
We should be a playoff baseball team.
Exactly.
So, but once again, pending this game could be both 19-12, could be both 18-13. But I'll put up a graphic for the next episode or for this episode when it airs about our updated records. And then, of course, we'll have the punishment film for the next video and then also posted on our Instagram page.
Yes, Roach will be spinning the wheel this week. I'm off the hook. It'll be the same punishments, guys, so it'll be funny. Or not the same exact punishment, but the same like we talked about last week.
Yeah, I just pulled the TikTok one off of there, so it's a lot of painful ones now. That was really
we'll have to think of something new to replace the TikTok one, because that one was funny, but we need to keep it fresh.
Yeah, of course. But that's gonna do it for this episode of the Couch Quarterbacks. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram at the Couch Quarterbacks. I'm Andrew Roachford. That's Ben Steinberg, and we will see you guys on the flip side.
Deuces.